became a national story when Colin Kaepernick decided to do so in the NFL. As a person with a military background, Sam, and you look at what Colin Kaepernick was doing then to where we are now, put in perspective that journey.
Look, Chris, it was an American soldier who talked to Colin Kaepernick about giving. A guy who served in Afghanistan, all right, who fought for this country, all right. I just get so tired of people. The narrative is Black Lives Matter. We understand all lives matter. We get that. We've seen that. I mean, who doesn't understand that? But what we're saying is, again, I'm going to say it for the millionth time, and we're going to keep saying it until people listen. Our lives matter as much as anyone else's. That's all we're saying. You can't treat us this way. You can't shoot us down. You can't beat us. You can't redline us. You can't deny us. And this is not what America stands for. And when you talk about a guy like Giannis, who's not from America, but grew up and dealt with his own racism from where he's from, and all around the world, you're seeing people protest around the world. This is not just happening in America. This is happening to poor people and people of color around the world. And the world is standing up saying it's time to get right. You know, we talk about all these great visions, and we talk about all these things for what with life and liberty and justice, but we don't live it. We don't practice it. And these players, and during this time, now is the time to make this country live up to the promises that it stands for.
Isaiah, there seems to be a distinction, too, in the rhetoric involving the NBA restart and what the players are trying to accomplish. And there's a difference between social justice and racial justice. Those two terms, when you hear those, what's the difference?
Well, they are cousins of each other. So when we talk about social justice, we're talking about how we are treated and how we respond and react to each other in society. And those would be classified under social norms. The way we respect, talk, act, be with each other. Now, when we talk about racial justice, then you get to the conversation of race being a socially constructed governance of how we have to live in society. So race is a social construction. Well, it's not real. Race is made up. It's not biological. It is a social norm that is used here in America to govern. Now, when we talk about when we talk about racial justice, we're saying that these classified races that America has labeled all of us in terms of white, black, red, blue, what have you, has taken us out of our birthrights and taken us out of being American. So therefore, whites have certain rights and privileges. Blacks fight for certain rights and privileges. So now when we're talking about racial justice, we're talking about the social constructed classifications of race that America has put us in as citizens. So that's the difference between social justice and racial justice.
Isaiah, I want to come back to you on this because I think about the turmoil a bit before the restart, and it was Kyrie Irving, vice president of the NBA Players Association. We know that Chris Paul is the president. It was Kyrie raising the issues of players are going to have a difficult time. Maybe we should not be playing basketball right now. Can you go back to that time period and discuss what his message was then and how it resonates now?
I spoke to Kyrie Irving and I let him know emphatically that he was right on point. Now, why was he right on point? Because the duality of us as high-profile athletes and also classified blacks living in America, we have what W.E.B. Du Bois spoke to in terms of double consciousness. So while we are perceived one way in uniform, when we put our number 11 and it has a name on the back and you're scoring 20 points and getting 10 rebounds, you are perceived one way in uniform. When you step out of uniform, you are perceived another way in society. Now, what Kyrie Irving was speaking to is that now is the time, and this is the moment in society, just as it was in the 60s, where there was a moment in time where America was seriously having a discussion and talking about making changes for systemic racism. There was when Martin Luther King, Lyndon B. Johnson, President Kennedy, everyone was having a discussion in the 60s. Well, all those leaders got assassinated and killed. What this young generation has done right now, they have taken to the streets again, and they said now is the time for America to end systemic racism. There's only been 2 times in America that in my lifetime that the word systemic racism have been used together. You're either talking about race or racism. But when you talk about systemic racism, Kyrie Irving was recognizing the moment that we're in today and saying now this is the time. And basketball could be used as a distraction to take away from the moment. Now, they both were right, because the players said, well, we can use this platform as they are today to keep attention and focus on the moment. So they both were right.